Welcome, everybody, to episode 7 of PT Shop Talk. I'm Casey Hansen. With me today is the always baritone Nick Doling. And we have a special guest today, Jeremy VanKlompenburg. Now, Jeremy, we've invited you today to talk about being tall. So how's the weather and how is playing basketball?
It's a lot of times it's sunnier up here. And hoops are great. I mean, they translates to everything, throwing pieces of paper in a wastebasket, throwing towels. I mean, you're just automatically good at that because you're tall.
So. Yeah, what's like the top of a cabinet look like? I've never seen it.
Dusty.
Oof.
Dusty.
That's why I don't look up there. Well, no, Jeremy, we invited Jeremy in today to talk to us a little bit about running business, PT-owned business. I think that's a big topic. So Jeremy, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your history, and we'll get into some of the weekend stuff, and then we'll chat a little bit more about business.
Yeah, Jeremy VanKlompenburg, physical therapist, live in Montague, Michigan, small town on the coast of Lake Michigan, about 30 minutes north of Muskegon, for those of you following on Google Maps. And been running a practice out here for about 4 years now.
So there's Detroit and Green Bay. Those are the only two cities there, correct? Is that
Green Bay?
Oh wait, Michigan.
Well, Green
Sorry.
Bay's in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's whoops.
We might be the halfway point between Green Bay and Detroit.
Sorry, I was looking at Google Maps and it failed me. You know, it's crazy. When you get to PT school, I was never once asked a geography question. I wasn't even on the GRE.
Doesn't come up much, no?
No, I'm doing distraction training with a therapist right now, and we're using capitals as the distraction. I know like 8. I had to pull it up on my phone because I got past North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. I was done for.
Vermont.
Montpelier. Yeah. Okay. I see. That's one of my 8.
See, wait till we get to concussion rehab. That's a classic.
Yeah. Man. How are you guys? I know again you're relatively close to Green Bay. Is that so? Are most people in your area Detroit Lions fans? Is that the behavior out there with the Super Bowl coming up?
Yeah, actually a lot of love for old Matthew Stafford out here right now, actually.
So a lot of folks cheering this weekend.
Good for you, Matthew. We're so proud of you.
Really a tortured franchise. I've said since we've been out here being a Vikings fan, I said, I don't know what's worse, knowing you're going to be terrible every year or having the hope that you're going to have a good season and then still being terrible. But just with what they went through with Barry Sanders and Megatron, I think it's pretty cool for them to see somebody leave and have some success.
It seems weird to be, that's what we put our hat on.
Yeah.
Hey, somebody left and they didn't just retire early from their career from hatred of the game.
Do you think either of those two guys are watching like this all play out and they're like totally filled with regrets? Like why couldn't Barry have been traded to like Buffalo at the end of his career and just get them to the show or get them to win the show? Or Megatron. And when did he retire? Is that 13?
Somewhere in there. I know they had earlier this week, they had Barry on ESPN radio, and they were just asking him about that thought of kind of the age of player empowerment, what Aaron Rodgers is going through. And I want to make the decisions for my career and I want to go where I want to go. And that just didn't exist in his time frame. So.
Well, it did in that moment of time with Deion Sanders. Remember, Deion kind of balanced this. That's what I was talking with the patient today about, how this Rams team and the Odell Beckham signing, as late as it was, reminded me of when Deion got traded to the Niners right at the deadline and really gave them the shot in the arm to get into the Super Bowl to win it that year. I think that was January 95 when they won it. But yeah, you're right. It's a little different era right now.
Yeah.
Call your shot.
Yeah. If you're that franchise type player, you can pretty much call it how you want it. That's for sure.
And it's probably all right. Those guys are making money. People go back and forth on salary, right? But I mean, nobody's denying the owners are making way more. So
totally. Yeah. Hey, how refreshing of it how refreshing is it though as a Vikings fan, like to hear some talks, Kirk's finally talking about maybe restructuring, like free up cash for other guys. I mean, I've been waiting to hear that for 3 years out of the guy.
Yeah, I don't know that he has much hope to keep a job if he doesn't restructure his deal.
True.
I don't know.
But he could, but he's
Burn
guaranteed
through.
it, right? He could just dig his heels in the sand, get paid.
Burn
And-
through 1 year with him and move on. I'm tired of it. I don't know. I'm not a huge Vikings guy, but
I know you said that one other time. Stuck with me.
yeah. Oh, we've all made bad decisions. I get it. Now, are you guys like big Super Bowl guys? Like you have big parties, big food, stay up, do the whole deal?
You know, I was saying I enjoy the game. I do. I think lately the commercials have been a little disappointing. But I enjoy the experience, the game, just getting together with. It's probably more about the get together that because the Vikings are never playing, so I
Yeah.
don't pay that much attention to the game.
Yeah, heart's totally not in it. But yeah, do you guys think that, to your point, is that diminished now because they're releasing all these commercials earlier? Yeah, I know on YouTube you can find like 10 or 12 of them already.
Yeah, I have zero desire for the commercials, but
Yeah.
they're just not the
Dr.
same.
Dr. Dre and Eminem. That was the joke going around for the halftime show. Eminem's at the Super Bowl and Matthew Stafford's at the Super Bowl. It's going to be the closest the Lions ever get to winning.
Yeah,
Oh,
closest
yeah.
Detroit's ever gonna get.
8
Closest
miles in
to
the
Green
house,
Bay.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, until the
Should we-
Packers make it, Michigan will never be there. That's what they always say.
To the back. I love it. I love that we're just playing with your terrible sense of geography.
Yeah, can we move on from that?
Well, let's get it. Hey, let's get. I want your gun to the head. You gotta lay your money down. Pick right now. Who you got? Casey Ants. Who are you taking?
I'm gonna take the Rams, and I think it'll be, let's go 35-24.
35-24. In fairness, I'm gonna pull up the line really quick.
Yeah, I have zero idea of anything because I love regular season football and playoff football, but don't care about the Super Bowl at all.
The line was 4 this morning.
Rams. Got
Who was
right.
it for? Oh, that's not what you meant.
He's so punny.
Green Bay.
Yeah. Oh, the Michigan, we did it.
Where is it? Come on.
Speaking of Kirk Cousins, geography-wise, he grew up about an hour south of where we live at. You should walk into that B-dubs sometimes. It's just a absolute shrine to the guy.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Holland
How about
Christian,
the
stand up.
How about the Pizza Ranch down there? They got a lot of rock and roll for him.
They've only got one pizza ranch around here, but I guess buffets aren't as big of a thing as they are in the Midwest.
God, we're so fat.
They just put an arcade in the Pizza Ranch here in Fargo. Things have gotten serious.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
kids love
Money
it.
on this note, money line is 4. Okay. Rams are -4. Over under at 48.5.
I take the over on that.
I got to take Rams with the over, obviously, based on my score prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. I mean, I just think they're loaded. They're loaded up. I'll go with the over as well. If the Bengals can swing it, it's definitely an over. If they're gonna win, it's gonna be a shootout.
Yeah, I think they'll make some plays. Obviously, you can't not. But that D line, that Rams D line, is gonna just absolutely create havoc. I think it's gonna be similar to last year.
They might sack him
Mahomes is gonna
10
be-
times.
Yeah,
They're
Well, yeah. What did he take? Did he take 8 against the Titans?
9.
9.
Yeah.
You know what? That guy, I'm turning into a Burrows fan just because of all the memes that are out on him and the way he dresses. That dude, what do the kids say now? That's drip, right?
I'll
I
believe
don't know
it.
if they still say that. That was a couple years ago, but I don't know.
Really? Shut up. Oh, it's
No,
2
that was
years
a while
old.
back. Yeah.
You're breaking my heart.
His last one, did you see, was supposed to be an ode to the Rock? Black turtleneck
Yeah.
and the chain. Yeah.
Got fanny.
Did he have a
pack, too.
fanny pack?
Yeah. Big ups to the Rock.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I like Joe Burrow. He's got swagger. I don't know. I like that old school quarterback swagger. You know,
He
I
does.
feel
He's
like
got
sometimes these quarterbacks now are so worried about their image and saying the right thing, and I don't
So
know.
he is the opposite of Kirk Cousins, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like Kirk has zero swagger.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, I like
And yet
that old gunslinger swagger.
Yeah. I saw a meme. You're talking about memes about like different players. I saw one about Kirk Cousins where it's like, dude looks like he could get hung over from a salad bar.
Too much ranch, as we say in the Midwest.
Yeah. I haven't touched it since college.
Now,
Kids are doing.
so as we talk about, I guess we still need Jeremy's final prediction, right? We haven't got that.
Yeah.
What do you got, Jeremy?
Well, let's go Rams by 14. 35-21.
Ooh, close. All right.
35-21. All right.
I think as long as Stafford doesn't make any stupid mistakes, I think sometimes he gets caught up in his old gunslinging ways, and that defense is going to roll, I think, as long as he doesn't put them in too bad of positions.
I like it. What's the over under on number of times we use the term gunslinger on this podcast?
We
Well,
should
once we start talking about Jeremy running business over there, I mean, that's gonna keep flying.
He's the Brett Favre of private practice physical therapy.
Yeah, I like that. That's why I invited him. Now, do you
Longevity.
guys think the Super Bowl should be on Saturday? I'm a huge fan of that. Can we just agree right now on this podcast to just make the change? I'll let the NFL know.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, Nick Doling, you look hesitant, and I don't like that.
10 years ago, yeah. I think now, for what I just said, like I'll watch it, but with a casual interest. It's not like I'm getting pissed up on beers or anything
Wouldn't
else
you
this
if
weekend.
it was a Saturday?
I don't know. Four kids changes a lot of how much I put down. Probably for the best. No, I think I'm fine with it where it's at. You know, if the Vikings were to ever make that proverbial game, I'm just going to take Monday off.
Now, you're fine with it being Sunday. I'm okay with that. But why? Are you just fine with it being on Sunday because it's always been on Sunday? Do you have a good reason where you're like, Sunday's the better day?
I've actually, as I've gotten older, I've morphed into really enjoying Sunday football. I really, anytime and really my scope of football is narrowed too. I think it just happens with age. You can't keep up. Like you just don't have as much interest to watch that casual Monday night game, no matter who's playing. But like, so when the Vikings do play a Monday night game, I hate it. I like, there's no other time slot that I dislike more than a Monday night game.
How would you like it if they were playing a Saturday game?
They do play Saturdays.
Right? It's great. Right? They play football every night of the week now. Let's move on from Sunday.
Pretty much. I do enjoy a Thursday night game. You know, go figure, right? But it's earlier. Maybe I'm getting a little taste. I'm jumping the gun on the weekend. But no, just more of a traditionalist, I guess.
All right, I'm never going to change that stubborn mind of yours, I guess. Kids.
I'm stubbornly dickish.
Kids have ruined everything.
Or am I dickishly stubborn?
I don't know. Stubbornly dickish? That's a weird term, huh?
No, I'm just more dickishly stubborn.
Yeah, sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we move on, I have one fun story about kids. We talked the other day about like using dad voice, right?
Yeah.
And I almost had to use it again the other weekend. But a lot of times we split duties. So sometimes I'll wash the dishes. My wife will take the kids to bed just because she's better at it. I'm like, when they take a bath, my wife combs their hair. She shampoos them, conditions them, brushes their teeth. I take a hose and I'm like, you guys are good. All right. I'm going to go do my own thing. Play as long as you want. So I'm down there doing dishes and I hear the event and I hear my wife getting frustrated and I want no part of it. So I keep washing dishes. And finally that break, she was mom voice, right? And I was like, all right. Mom voice came out. I'm going to have to intervene. So we have a 2-story. I put the dishes down. I get to the bottom of the stairs and I hear my wife just yell out like, Jesus, you never listen. Right. Well, that was mom voice. Like, And we don't curse much in front of our kids. And I'm not going to say Jesus is cursing, but I was like, ooh, we've hit a level. So this is my daughter. I get to the bottom of the stairs. I look up, and standing at the top of my stairs is my daughter, straight up Pooh Bearing it, t-shirt, nothing else on.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I look at her, and she looks at me, and she goes, Dad, my name's Jesus, and I don't listen. She takes off running. And I was like, these kids are sponges. It's so funny. And she repeated that multiple times. So I'm curious what daycare thinks when she has informed them her new name is Jesus. But that got me thinking, like, I almost never swear at my kids. But yet, if I were to take a poll of everybody that knows my wife and I, who is like more inappropriate, they would all pick me. And I'm like, I got to believe that's a byproduct of being a therapist, working in the clinic, and always having to filter like everything you say based on your patients, right? Like some patients you can swear in front of, some patients you can talk politics, some you can do this, but you're always kind of have, at least I do anyways, that little filter. Do you guys find that true as well? Or are you guys the curse word bomb droppers in your households?
Well, okay, clarify. Are we talking? So we're talking in the house, or because you have a couple of really good topics in here.
Well, yeah,
Whether it's like in the house around your kids,
I want to know how bad of
around your patients.
How bad of a dad am I?
I don't think you're a bad dad. I think you're a human dad.
Oh, thanks.
Correct.
I've let some
better than
slip.
a cat dad, I guess.
I've let some slip, and I always apologize for it. You know, I'm like, I'm not gonna, say I'm too good to apologize. Be that dickishly stubborn.
Now, are we talking patients or kids? Where are we at here?
Kids.
Okay.
Now, if I'm going to drop a little bomb, usually it's because the patient's already done that. And sometimes I use it as a mirroring technique and as a way to actually make them feel more comfortable, talk with them a little bit more on their level. And particularly obviously in either a closed door environment or, we're the only people in the gym, and I can, express some of that back at them.
Yeah,
and
gunsling it like Jeremy dropping F-bombs in the gym.
Yeah, I gunsling my tongue, just
yeah.
And we're fine. I actually did it today. Dropped a little S bomb to kind of match my.
I can edit this if we need to. If you have the deep down urge to swear,
there that beep.
Do we have to put the explicit like after the?
I don't know how many swears before that becomes a thing. So
let's hear from Jeremy.
Yeah, I want to see what Jeremy.
I would agree with you. I mean, in terms of in the clinic, I mean, you're spot on. You're trying to adapt at least a little bit, to your patient, speak to them in their language. But I would agree with Nick where, if that ever happens, it's in a closed door environment.
Yeah.
Not
at the front office.
Even in the
hey, John Anderson in the waiting room, get the hell back here, you old sack of garbage.
Hey, Barb, get this shit scheduled.
Yeah. Well, that's really good.
Actually, I've probably adopted more of like my wife makes fun of me sometimes. She's like, man, you belong in like the 1950s, where I'm like, gosh golly darn it.
You stole that from me. That's my geez. Jeepers creepers.
Holy smokes there, Mary, slow up.
They're like, geez, I didn't know I had Kirk Cousins as my therapist.
Yep.
Yeah, very vanilla.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't my daughter's barely talking right now, so I haven't
perfect time to swear at her.
Found the need to swear at her.
If you're gonna drop them, get them all out of your system now.
Yeah,
she's starting to say words, and we're working with her with flashcards. And so when she comes to Fox in the flashcards, that's always an interesting.
Yeah, truck too. It took our boy's truck. It's funny for a long time.
My son's name is Locke, and my daughter L's were often C's for her. So you could imagine her walking around the house asking for cock often. I hope she never listens to this podcast when she gets older.
Oh, that's great stuff. It's just a time capsule.
Yeah. Right.
this got way off the rails. Jeremy,
There's always
tell
time
us-
to bring it back.
You're still a good dad,
lost
Casey.
in the intro.
Human dad,
Tell us
I heard.
Tell us a little bit about your fan. Share a little bit about yourself to our listeners who may not know you. Where are you from? Where did you go to school?
Okay.
I know you said you're in Montague now, but tell us a little bit about your background.
So I grew up in southwestern Minnesota, Canby, Minnesota. Stand up.
Where's
big
that in
shout out.
relation to Green Bay?
Straight west.
Okay.
Straight west.
It's my geographical landmark. I need to know.
About 10 hours.
That's how you should describe that. Just
I
be
got
like,
it. I got
So
it.
I grew up in Canby, Minnesota. It's like 732 miles west of Green
Bay. I've pinned it on my mental
Crossing.
map now. I know. We can move on. All right. Keep
That is
going.
probably how Packers fans describe everything geographically.
Where
It's
is
like
it
2.5
in relation to
hours
Green
south
Bay?
of Green Bay.
Yeah, I went to undergrad at Southwest Minnesota State University, went to grad school at USD. Go Yotes, Case.
Yotes.
Go Yotes.
Yotes.
Oh my
What?
goodness. I can stop this at any
Those
time.
are Yodi
That's
ears.
a real PT school for those of you listening at home.
Do you guys howl? Is that a thing?
Some do.
Ugh.
Uh,
Ugh. Oh.
We just give the
Those are bison horns. What are you guys doing? Stole that. That's trademark.
There's
Oh, it had a
bison
mouth. Oh, okay.
no, that was a yipping coyote.
Oh, you go yip 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 yip. Yip.
It's a
That's
snout.
intimidating. I like that. I never knew.
You just turn it sideways.
Yeah. See, USD has never like really done a whole lot against NDSU, so I've never got to hear a lot of the yipping. That's fun.
Wow.
There was an upset
Wow.
a couple years back. The
Oh yeah,
Yankees
when
did-
Carson Wentz broke his wrist during the game.
Yeah, just let's not take everything away from.
Anyways, I keep interrupting you, Jeremy. That's not
No,
nice.
you're good.
Gunsling me if you have to.
So PT
No, I
school. So
Yeah, PT school, you were
University of South
yipping.
Dakota. What was your first job?
Then
And
my
why'd you have the best boss ever?
my first
Seemed like foreshadowing.
it was. Ooh.
I need a soundbar.
No, I worked in Marshall, Minnesota for Big Stone Therapies for none other than Nicholas Dolning. And so that's where I spent the first, would be almost 5 years of my career.
That math adds up. Yeah.
Now I'm in Michigan. So, yeah.
Still heartbroken over here.
Sorry, bro.
Still good times. Good times.
Somebody to clean the top of every cabinet you had.
They
was-
were never cleaner, ever.
Legit funny story. And then, all right, we'll kill the intro after this and we'll get in this main topic because there's so much meat on that bone. But funny story when Jeremy was a student where we used this height. We have a very humble clinic in Marshall, and there is some maybe insufficient. How would you put it? I don't know. A bat got in. And we actually, one afternoon, Jeremy and I were on bat removal detail using an old fishing net. And we got to use all 6'9" of Jeremy's height to help us catch this bat. And you're expecting this entirely awesome, like calamity ensuing, bats going crazy moment. And we end up, scooping the bat off the corner of the ceiling, and it lands in the net and it just lays there. Then we go take it outside and chuck it in the back lot where it's peaceful and it can be part of nature. And it just lays there yawning at us. And we're like, this is nothing like you'd expect in a movie where it's supposed to be like chasing us around and we should be smacking at each other trying to kill it.
Yeah, I woke up to a bat in our bedroom one time and it was calamity. That was a movie. Holy moly. Yeah.
I wish your bat would have been in our clinic.
Yeah, he was wild. He wanted no piece of leaving our home. I'm sleeping and our cats are like running back and forth across the bed. I'm like, what is happening? I peek open and I'm like, that's the hugest flipping moth I've ever seen. I'm going back to bed. And then my sleep brain was like, there's no way a moth is that big. So I open my eyes and it's obviously a freaking bat. And my wife's next to me and she's like, what are you doing? Go back to bed. Why? I'm like, hey, don't panic, but there's a bat in the bedroom. Panic ensues. She screams, blankets flying off. I'm chasing this thing around with 2 racquetball rackets in my underwear.
It is. It's like so yours like the great outdoors, and you're like John Candy.
Yeah, I'm like John Candy. I have 2 cats, so I'm throwing them in a room, closing the door, chasing this bat around. Then my wife opens the door, so the cats run out. So now I'm chasing 2 cats with rackets in my underwear. And at some point, the bat disappears. It's still to this day, I don't know what happened to it.
You didn't harm the bat, did you? You didn't.
I wanted revenge because I found out later they recommend if you wake up with a bat in your room to get rabies shots, because you don't know if it was like slobbering on you or if it crawled on you in your sleep. And I don't know if you guys are aware, this isn't a huge PT topic, but you don't want rabies. I became an expert in rabies because they're like, yeah, you should probably get a rabies shot. And I'm like, I think I'll risk it, right? Like I'll ride the rabies train. My quick research said you don't ride the rabies train. Like one person survived. One person is like survived rabies in the history of the world. So
not worth it. I saw Old Yeller. It's not worth it.
That's what they were going to do to me.
Yeah.
So
Casey.
13 shots later, and about $2,000.
Yep.
I was rabies free. So that's my bad story. I needed a Jeremy with a fishing net.
He would have got it.
What year did that occur in?
2010, 2011. You think it's the same bat?
Okay. Wow. We've been hearing a lot about lab leak theories and things like that. I'm curious on the timeline. Just curious.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. Yeah, you're not going to want to go down that road. So if listeners don't ride the rabies train, the ending is poor. And I feel like the craziest part of rabies is that you become afraid of water. That's the weirdest thing to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a very odd, very specific symptom of rabies. Like, hey man, you look parched. Get that the hell away from here. Yeah, like, like, oh, I'm not showering. No way, that's a death trap. The water will obviously kill you. It's just a weird deal. Anyways, that's we again have went off the rails. So
and that concludes this week of Bat Talk.
Yeah. Stay tuned for episode 2 of Batcast.
Bat Chat.
Batman's out later this month, isn't it?
Jeremy, we're trying to stay on track.
Sorry.
Batman. The Batman, I think it is.
Yeah, he's official. Batman was his son. He's the Batman. That's the father.
Really, we could really sidebar on that. Casting decisions and whatnot out of Hollywood. But
I think this is a therapy podcast, though.
Yeah.
At some point.
It's the first guest mega cast with Jeremy VanKlompenburg.
Yeah, it's we've already determined it's a champagne celebration. We're doing everything we can.
5-hour show broken into 3 parts.
It's been sponsored by the Green Bay Packers of Michigan.
lots of gunslingers and cliffhangers.
I'll just break it into 8 pieces so we can just have a ton of cliffhangers.
Well, that does bring us to our physical therapy topic, which is launching a new practice. Jeremy, you did launch a new practice. You acquired one in 2018 over Montague, Michigan, as you mentioned. So going back to those days in 2018, and actually at the end of 2017, right? What interested you in acquiring that business?
Man, that was an interesting time. I had just come off of the OCS in 16. I don't know. That was kind of a tough time. I mean, after going through all that and then the 19-month wait to find out whether I passed it or not. Just kidding.
It was like 3 months, but
spoiler alert, don't leave everybody in suspense. Did you pass?
I passed it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But then we had we had some discussions about partnership in the Marshall Clinic at that time. And, you know, so I had thought a lot about that sort of role. Intrigued me a lot. I mean, I guess it was sort of that next challenge, if you will. You go, okay, well, now I'm board certified, now what? And yeah, that was a tough season. I guess, like, in speaking with my wife and having a lot of discussions, like, she just she felt like she wanted to be back in Michigan. She grew up in Michigan. Her sister lived in Michigan. And we didn't know it at the time, but she just felt really like something wasn't right, and I had to turn that down. And I was like, still, Nick, man, like, talking to you, telling you that, it was like maybe the worst conversation I've ever had.
Really, that one?
It was tough, man. That was really freaking tough.
I love you, man.
And
it was because we didn't have a big enough office for the two of us, wasn't it?
Well, we didn't have enough windows. That's really what it came to.
Correct.
No, but that was tough because I mean, man, even to this day, like, that was a great clinic environment. You know, I attribute so much of my growth professionally and personally to that, and having a team of people who push me every day, having a team of people that, if I was having a tough day where I was just trying to kind of ride fumes, where I'd look around and be like, man, I got to pick my game up. And that was a big deal. And so we kind of went through that season, so to speak, and just was, again, just kind of focused on day-to-day practice. And then randomly, out of the blue, my brother-in-law called me up and he said, hey, my mom was eating breakfast at this diner, and she saw that this PT practice in our town is for sale. And he goes, I stopped in. He goes, the lady that owns it's kind of crazy, but you should give her a call. And so I'll never forget it. It was in August. It was on Thursday afternoon. I had a 2 o'clock lunch at that time. So 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern. And I call this gal, and she's really just, she's frantic, right? Yeah, yeah, how's your bus? Yeah, we've got multiple offers on the building. And I need an offer by 5 o'clock today. And you know, that's that. And I told her, well, I'm about 3 years out of PT school. I don't have a rich uncle, so I'm not in a real position to drop some money on a building and a practice sight unseen. So I said, well, we'd be interested in it, but obviously I want to come see it. And so we went out that weekend, and that's what kind of started the process.
So
all those other offers just fell through?
Yeah, we found out one was, well, there was only one other, like, sort of interested party. And it was actually a church that met in a house that had like 15 members. So that didn't end up being like all that serious of an offer either.
That was your competition, huh?
So I guess that's like the, how would you say it? Like, just positioning it to get the sale done.
Yeah, she was leveraging
offer.
it. Yeah. She wasn't lying though. I mean, she's in integrity.
She was not lying.
I shouldn't question her, I guess.
She was just highly misrepresenting the situation.
Yeah.
So you went and looked at this place. I mean,
yeah.
What
turned you on about it?
Yeah, what were you looking for? I'm
gonna
move on from that. But what did you find exciting about it?
We use the word acquisition here because technically we did acquire the business that was there. However, it wasn't much of a business. I'll be honest.
So
in
was
a,
she still interested in practicing, or she was done with it? She was a PT.
she was still interested in practicing. She's at the time, I believe she was 73 years old.
Oh, okay.
And she was in the office like a couple times a week, maybe for a half day. Had a PTA that was around there at times, and
Smooth running
really,
ship, it
like,
sounds like.
Loosey goosey,
well,
maybe.
well, in terms of like getting to know her, I mean, I think she was pretty much the definition of old money anyways, like in terms of, like, I think she came from a rich family. Her husband is a lawyer, had been forever. You know, at that point in time, right? Like, I gotta imagine she graduated with her bachelor's degree. So
Yeah.
That makes a career in physical therapy when reimbursement in the 80s was like, $28 to put a hot pack on, right? Like, like it's time to be a PT, right? So at this point, I think it was something to get her out of the house and just basically, it was a hobby for her. So
Okay.
I guess I looked at it and I said, well, if she's in business, I feel like I could do something with this practice, and I feel like there's some opportunity here. So, yeah, I mean, it was I guess the ultimate new challenge of just starting something from scratch and trying to see what you can make of it. So,
So
When
what were their?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. So what were the previous? What type of previous operating systems were they using? Like, were they on EMR? Was it still paper documentation? What type of billing? Were they outsourcing billing?
yep, they were outsourcing billing, and I believe, from what I understand of their contract, it was basically some set percentage of revenue.
Like 6% or something.
6%.
6%. Yeah.
And then I believe there was an EMR component to that, but a lot of paper charting. The scheduling system was a pencil and eraser in a book. I mean,
The
it
ledger.
was old school. I mean, for sure. So,
I mean, was it, she sounds pretty disorganized. I mean, did she even have metrics a person could go through and look at? I mean, when you were looking at a business, was it like, well, what kind of caseload do you have? I mean, patients on file. I mean, what was she doing with all her old charts and stuff? If you could go back and go, hey, we're opening up old patients, like.
yeah. So, I mean, they kept their old charts and filing cabinets but it was kind of that first weekend we were there. I brought my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, and both of them have a background in business. My brother-in-law, MBA guy, like really sharp, and so we were talking about this going into it, even though he has no PT background. It's like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like how many patients they see a week, like who's their main referral source, right? Like some really basic things that even a guy that has no clue about PT is like, these are good things to know, right? And
Basic metrics.
the most basic of basic, right? And well, how many patients do you see? Well, a lot. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, who's your main referral source? Well, I'm not sure, but we get a lot of patients from up the road, and we get a lot of patients from Muskegon, and we get some patients from Grand Rapids, but it's like, okay. So really that first meeting was really not helpful, I guess. And I tried to use that for a while as just like a kind of a bargaining chip in terms of what were we going to do, how are we going to acquire it, how were we going to transition the building, that sort of thing. So but yeah, zero, again, I mean, again, it's like, you just wonder where you're like, I mean, she did okay for herself, but I'm like,
Yeah.
you wonder if there was even just like the slightest bit of business acumen, like what she would have done.
That's
Crazy.
fair. Yeah. I mean, so like I want to say motivating factors was, like you said, if she can be successful, I feel like I can be successful. And then, I mean, financially, it seemed to make sense. I mean, she had financials, I mean, when it all boiled down to it.
No, financially, it did not make sense.
Okay.
In terms of, I mean, what they had done in revenue in 2017, that did not make sense. It was like, this is not a real business. But again, looking at that and saying, well, if their doors are open, I think I can do something with this. And then, I mean, the other
so on that, we don't have to share, let's not share exact numbers, right? We'll give you that respect and privacy. But like, what does that equate to? What type of business were they doing in terms of patient visits, and what was their care model? Like patient visits per week, if you could just ask.
So they didn't have a care model. I mean,
were they mostly like, were they 30-minute treats, 45, like kind of like a little mix of both?
They did not treat anybody for less than probably 90 minutes.
Wow.
Okay.
So I'm talking like, so this is the care model. Hey, coming in, checking in. Okay. Front desk or PTA would bring them back, like wrap them in head to toe hot packs. So
nice.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, if you get too warm, we got a bell you can ring.
And a bell, like a physical bell.
Dude, there were like 15 bells in that place. Like some silver handled, some ornate wooden carvings. You can tell they cared about those bells. Gosh, it sounds so terrible and just crappy and talking.
Yeah. She really sold you. I love it.
Just shocking. I mean, like literally, I'm like, this is 2017, right?
So what were they using for outcome measures? That's a joke. I'm just kidding.
Actually, I think they did. I think they did use like some LEFS and tugs and things like that.
They were in the 94th percentile for orthopedic effectiveness.
Probably not. But maybe for patient satisfaction. I mean, it was like,
hot packs, man.
Hot packs, loosen me up, like probably not going to get off the table, maybe, a couple units of manual, maybe one of packs.
So and then get back to my point. I mean, like, and maybe I should have phrased this differently, but they must have had some semblance of a patient record there, patient volume that made you say, okay, we can make this work. Like we can tweak it, apply some different systems and flip the switch, right? I mean, you had to at least have that goal, right?
I looked at it as a new start. Like I looked at it as a new location, to be honest.
Open the doors and see what happens.
So, I mean, it's like.
But you did convert. Hold on, though. Let's be honest. You did convert patients, though, right?
Yep. We had about, I think, day one when we went live, I think we did. I'd have to look back now. I think we did 18 eval. I did 18 evals in 2 days. They were 45-minute evals. And so for 2 straight days of back-to-back reds.
So yeah, for perspective, and this is why I think it's important to delineate that was an acquisition.
Yeah.
The last 2 fresh startups were 1 per day.
Yep.
So I mean, that's just, I think there's just a big difference. You did inherit at least some bit of a case, and then you could build. At least it gives you a start launching point. I'm not saying it was great business, but at least it gave you that launching point.
Yep, I agree with that. Yep. So, and some, to be fair, because we had to re-eval everyone, right? Because it was a different NPI and different everything. Yeah. So not all of those some of those patients, it was like a couple of them were like basically an eval visit and a DC. Yeah. But I mean, we probably probably had 10 to 12 patients that we got like a halfway plan of care out of.
Okay.
Yep.
So then how many staff stuck around after it? What was the effective date? When did it launch as Big Stone Therapies Montague?
May 21st, 2018.
And then how many staff stuck around made the transition? Clinical and front office?
We had two. It was, we had a PTA, and then our front desk person.
And is that the same front desk person you have now?
It is, yeah. You said who stayed and how long, right?
Yeah.
The PTA didn't make very long. Not very long at all. Just some differing treatment philosophies, I guess.
You just threw those hot packs out like they were a bat, huh?
Oh, I think
To the back lot you go.
Hey, you can share that little nugget, little story with Kpis. I mean, you don't have to
Just
say
the
his
three
name,
of us here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
so we were, so we had.
What was he doing?
We had just sort of transitioned, and and at the time, so they had this like patient retention strategy where they were like, if you've been a past patient, you can work out in our gym for $20 a month, right?
It's a mug.
Like,
a mug.
Yeah, not a mug.
It's a mug.
It wasn't a mug. So you basically had like 4 or 5 like super nosy old ladies that were like, yeah, I watched some crazy stuff while we were waiting to transition, and like where those ladies would come in and like a patient would be on a table and they'd set their purse like next to the patient's being treated. It was like wild. Wild West, gunslingers. And so anyways, like, I'm trying to, this is like right after we transition, I'm still trying to build a rapport with everybody, be the friendly guy that's coming in to take over this practice. And it was coming up for Memorial Day, right? Because we had started on the 21st, right? And getting ready for the holiday. And I asked this gal, I said, yeah, what are you doing this weekend? And she goes, oh, so-and-so, insert PTA name.
Got it.
He's coming to my house to treat me. Private treatment at my house.
Little off the clock rub and tug.
Yeah, well, he's a big MFR guy, so maybe. But
no, I didn't know John Barnes teach that.
We'll do some unwinding. But anyway.
How many crystals does that area require?
So a lot. So so I'm like, oh, okay. And kind of proceed to end the conversation. And so, obviously I have to have a discussion with this guy and be like, what's going on, right? And he denied it. Oh, she's crazy. I would never do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that point, true or not, which I'm leaning towards it was probably true. It was just like, let's cut ties with this dude. I don't need to mess with that. There's enough going on with starting a new practice. So we did. That's another difficult conversation.
Second most difficult conversation of your life, huh?
Not the most difficult, more awkward for sure. Because it's just like, nah. But
so you cut the fat, you moved on because you're a gunslinger, you got goals.
So now it was just
aim high.
Now it was just me and my front desk gunslinging.
So what happened to the original owner when it was all said and done? She said maybe she was still interested in treating, but as he went into it,
she was doing a little bit of home health. And out here, like a lot of times we'll say like, oh yeah, home health is a nice little adjunct. Well, the contracts they were involved in, not worth leaving. So I said to her, you can have that. And so to the last of my knowledge, she was still doing a little bit of home health, but
So
I
she
haven't
had she had no desire to stay on, or you had no desire to keep her on from an outpatient
Yeah,
standpoint?
no desire on my part.
Okay.
I mean, uh, I don't know. I just looked at that as there's just too many potential snafus with having employees that used to report to somebody else that you're still trying to keep them on board. And
was that a hard conversation to have, or was she pretty understanding of that? Like, okay,
no, I mean,
she was trying
to get out too. So it wasn't just like, hey,
Pretty mutual.
like, it wasn't some hostile takeover. It was like, she's like, I'm getting ready, I'm done. And then she was like, but I still want to do this. And I'm like, go for it. Do your thing. So
Yeah.
Yep.
So then it was just you. About how long were you operating with just you as the only clinician in the building?
that would have been the first 3 months.
Okay.
So
All right. So it takes you to about August of 18. And then what was your first hire?
So we hired a PT out of Northwestern. She moved here, new grad. And thankfully she was flexible because as a new grad, a lot of times it's like, man, I need this paycheck to pay back these loans, but she was willing to take the chance on a growing practice. And I think actually another piece to it too is a lot of times, as a new grad, you can't get a job in outpatient unless you have 3 years or 5 years of experience, right? I mean, a lot of places will pop that up there as a requirement. So I know we've done it differently in Big Stone, but I've seen plenty of different places that are like, yeah, if you want to be part of this private practice, like you got to have some experience. So.
Well, I think it depends on the individual, right? I mean, that has to have a big take. So if you happen to be USD's like clinician of the year, like then you might just walk right into outpatient ortho.
Yep.
And gunsling it, maybe. So you've got this. So, and what did you hire at? Was it a 0.6? Is that right?
Yep.
All right. So you're operating 1.6 FTE clinically. You still got the one front office staff. What were you kind of seeing as far as your operational KPIs? Like, what were you kind of looking at there? And what were your trends? How that trend, and when did you finally pull financial stability?
So we started out, I mean, she was actually commuting about 45 minutes each way each day as well. Mm-hmm. So that sort of changed our scheduling thoughts, just trying to make it so she's not driving up every single day for like 2 patients. Mm-hmm. So we tried to load her up like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and go from there. We had gotten to, we'd gotten to the point where we were getting decently busy towards the 4th quarter of that year. There were, I talked to you about that transition too. You had slid into a different role within our company too. And, I guess this jumps up a little bit, but, talking about like, when do you hire, like, what are you looking at? And man, I was in the dark a lot with that stuff. I was actually just telling a patient that this morning as a business owner in another realm, but I was explaining to him, Nick, I told you this a couple of weeks ago, but I said, you had shared a fair amount, or what I thought was a fair amount, when we were leading up to some different partnership talks, just throughout the
back in Marshall.
Throughout my time in Marshall, and you go, you think, right? You're like, oh man, like, oh cool, man, I'm board certified, and like working my tail off, to give the best possible treatment I can. And, like, man, Nick's telling me some of these things, and like, man, I really understand this business side of things. Right? And then you're like, okay, well, now you have all these decisions, and you're like, wow, I didn't even realize like a fifth of like what's expected of me and the decisions that I need to make. And, so that was tough, and I was, I was leaning heavily on the people that I was reporting to for decision making and when's it okay to make a hire, right? So we're not in the black yet. And, like, man, I'm working my tail off, but we're still not profitable. And so those were a lot of, tough things to kind of work through. And there were plenty of days, like, I think back, I'm like, there were some days where I'd work from like 7 to 6 without a lunch. And then I'm like, man, we're still not black. And got the comment at one point, I'm like, well, can you see more patients? And I'm like, nope, there's no capacity there. And then you had that background, right? And you looked, you like blinked at it and you're like, dude, you needed to hire yesterday.
So like, just to back up, I was not the one asking you if you could see more patients.
No, you were not.
You were not. Yeah, I just want to clarify that.
You're on the.
No.
Yeah, it's I would say as a a partner too, man, those financials, I think that's something that is so different from being a clinician or even being a manager.
Yeah.
Your metrics seem like they make sense as a clinician. They seem like they make sense even from a manager perspectives when you look at metrics, and then you get financials and like it's a whole nother dimension, right? Like, because boy, you can hit all your metrics, but when the financial ends don't necessarily meet up, like a metric is not a metric all the time, right? Like units.
I'm glad you worked.
Insurance.
I was hoping you'd be able to work. Yeah, I was hoping you'd be able to work in on this. I wanted to get your perspective too, Casey, since you went through that transition last year, and some of those things that we got to use. I guess my philosophy that I ended up landing on, as emotionally tied as you can get to financials, are like, it's just data. It's more data, but you do the best you can to correlate it with your ops KPIs, right? And then find those clues.
It really is like taking a plot graph X and Y, like that kind of makes sense to you as a clinician, and then when you get the financials, it's like the Z axis, right? Like there's this whole other world behind X and Y that like totally affects, what they actually look like. And I think that's sometimes until you get into that world, because, we sit in this world where people don't like to talk about that stuff. They don't, I remember when I was in PT school, not yipping away. I can't even say my mascot now. We were offensive and hostile.
Suck. You were the fighting suck.
Yeah. But I have zero attachment. Sorry, Andy. But we put together a business plan, and we looked at metrics, and we looked at probably Medicare reimbursement rate was just what was available for us. And I was like, this is great. I'm gonna open my own business because like I'm easily gonna make $140,000 a year without even working, because it was just like I'm gonna see X patients, for this many units, and like that doesn't add up that way. But I'm not gonna say it was shocking when I became partner, but it was still a different world, like you talk a little bit about that as you look into owning a business or joining a business, whatever it is. You kind of talk about the numbers a little bit, but then you get the breakdown of like everything. I get this financial the first month, and there's like 14 pages on this Excel spreadsheet, and another spreadsheet with all these pages, and I'm like, what is happening? And
we went to school for, at the end of the day, we went to school for physical therapy. We're all doctors in physical therapy. Reading profit and loss statements is not exactly what we really went to school for, understanding all that.
I knew red was bad.
Tough. Yeah.
I know.
I was like, wait, I don't know what all these numbers mean.
Damn,
but I think red is bad, and I think parentheses are bad, but I'm not 100% sure. I need to talk to someone.
That's why you're at where you're at. Yeah. So like
financials and geography were two areas I needed to improve in.
yeah.
Still
Back to
working
Green
every
Bay.
day.
So back to Green Bay.
Yeah.
Are we-
Let's bring it
So
all back.
when you're looking at this and you're discerning right now, so from a time frame standpoint, launched in May of 18.
Yep.
You know, you're talking about staying in the red. How many months were you in the red before that first black month happened?
Let's see.
Was it 12 months? Was it
April
April?
of 19 was our first month in the black.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which seems like, you know, again, we were talking about that a little bit the other day, but I mean, like, seems like a long time, but you know, again, when you're talking about the, you know, the progression of a business, I'm like, you know, really, you know, I don't know that I could have expected much more. But again, it's like Casey alluded to, is just like that pressure of being like, you know, like, let me open up this Excel spreadsheet because I know it's not going to be good. And like, right. And you're so used to, sort of evaluating yourself on this, like, well, do my patients like me? Am I getting outcomes? You know, what's going on, right? And then it's like, well, shoot, that doesn't matter if I can't keep the doors open. and
No.
right,
No,
like
it doesn't.
Two separate worlds for sure. I mean,
yeah,
it's
and then it's like you're immediately, whether you had it or not, like that Peace Corps gene, that Peace Corps gene is like immediately ripped out of your DNA, where you're like, well, okay, like this stuff does matter, right?
I think under your circumstances, that's definitely, I think it's fair.
Yeah.
You know, to go through what you went through for a year.
Yeah.
And to be in that position.
Yeah.
We all came at this thing differently, you know, at different points. And I think you were really doing the best you could with the data and some of the feedback, you know, at the time. What do you feel led? So what are some of the decisions that you made that helped you get there along the way?
Man, I guess honestly, it'd be the same stuff that I preach like to this day to our staff, is that it's like, you know, again, obviously like we look at and expect and want to see certain KPIs in terms of like saying like this business is going to be stable.
I know we got some younger listeners, so maybe them KPIs, we're using that expression. It's a key performance indicator.
Yep.
So it's an abbreviation for stats. And in our world in therapy, it's units of service delivered, new patients, terms like productivity and efficiency. So I don't think we ever covered that. We just kind of jumped right in. But
you're correct.
Yeah, and there's some other ones too, like units per visit, stuff like that.
Yeah, yep. And you know, so I look at that and you know, like you need to be at a certain spot to be stable.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also realize that, you know, making that transition from a clinician to an owner and thinking about how you approached your job as a clinician, there's like, well, what do I care about a KPI? I'm just doing the best I can, right? I'm just trying to get this patient better, right? And so, you know, like I love what you hammer that a lot, right? Leadership capital, right? And like deciding like when it's a good time to push, deciding, you know, is what I'm seeing, is it a 1 week deviation? Was what happened that week? Is it a month deviation? Is it due to a new hire, or is it truly a trend, right? Is it truly what's going on in our clinic? And then being able to discern like what level of push do I need to put behind this, right? And knowing that if you're just always banging that drum of like, yeah, well, we need to see more patients, more time, more blah, 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 blah. It's just like everyone's like, whatever, Jeremy. Jeremy's rambling again. Let me freaking gloss over my eyes.
Yeah.
And
like we all know you want more money. We get that, right?
And I learned that, and I learned about, you know, a lot of that leadership capital by going bankrupt, by going in the red myself many times.
Yeah.
You know, with staff in that metaphor. Yeah.
So
So
it's oh, good.
I was gonna ask, so more like just following like a little bit of, because your growth, I could say, was very linear. Your first step that you made, was that to elevate your PET to a full staff, and then it was hire PTA? Was that, am I correct there?
So
Look at your notes,
we
Joe.
hired. No, I'm trying to get my timeline, man.
Yeah.
The last couple of years have been so wonky.
Did you not do your research before this episode?
Yeah.
It was.
Have you listened to the show?
I'm reading off the script right now.
We sent you info.
In May of 2019, we would have hired a PTA. So we did elevate our PT to. Actually, I think we only did a 0.8 right away, but we had her on site every day.
I remember, dude. I remember that now.
Yeah.
You moved her to a 0.8, and then we had this talk, and it's like, let's just go 1.0, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's right. Like, what are we don't need to be that trepid.
No, and some of that was just like knowing that, you know, if they're not truly at a 0.8, then we're gonna have to switch it back, and you know, like just right, like just trying to.
And meanwhile, I think I recall your efficiency was like 90%.
I think so. Yeah.
There was some wiggle room
there. You could have got a couple more patients in there.
But no, yeah, we hired a PTA on, and then 19. I mean, that was 19 the first year we integrated wigs in goals that way, or was it 18? I think it was 19.
I think it was 19.
It is
I think
19.
we've only done wigs for.
It was 19.
This will be the fourth year. Or
so I didn't have to do one.
And wigs would be our wildly important goals.
40x.
But yeah, shout out 40x. But
I got the book here. I can put it on camera.
We use that as a way to just say like, hey, you know, let's rally around our new hire. Let's focus on growth, and let's get her to full time so we can support her. And
Sean Covey, I knew that.
Yeah.
He's been around a long time. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
He's looking for sponsorship. Let me know.
Yeah,
give us some money.
We might break 100 listeners tonight.
Jeremy, we don't share those metrics.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's that worth to you, Covey?
But no, I mean, 19 was, again, like, it was just kind of, you know, slow, steady growth. And then 2020.
What happened in 2020? I'm unfamiliar.
Your bat came back.
I should have got him. He'd been plotting. He'd been plotting.
Made the long trek over the Pacific.
This was the Batman, I believe.
The bat. But yeah, obviously that put a, you know, kind of a little bit of a damper on things, but
you rebounded super quick though, right?
Well, as fate would have it, I mean, we came out of 2020. You know, actually we came out of we beat 2019 in 2020, as fate would have it. And so then actually in it would have been the very end of 2021, we hired a second PTA. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We've had a few rotating staff members, but 2 full-time PTAs, or technically 1.8 PTAs and then 2.0 PTs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like things have changed a lot in your in your role now as you've added staff, when you talk about ownership early on versus ownership now, how is things just, personally, as far as running business and being a PT, because, you're still treating.
Yeah.
How's that evolved over the last couple of years?
Right. You get the, I don't know. I don't know that anybody would say that they're an owner and they don't feel invested in the success of their clinic. I still feel
early on, it sounded like, you're the guy driving,
yeah.
I think even sometimes I still feel that too. Like there's such a push for me as a clinician to be successful.
Yeah.
Like, how do you step back and manage when there's so much stress still to be the,
well,
the guy?
Right? Like the old adage, right? Like work on your business, not in your business, right? And you realize, right? Like, well, I lived that, right? Where there's like capacity, right? I can feel like, man, on my team, I feel like I can be the best, give the best treatment for anybody. Right. If I wanted to like pound my chest and say that, okay, cool. But I can at a maximum see 40 patients a week. Right. So if we want to grow, like that's on me to build that, right? Whether it's new contracts, whether it's building up my staff. I would say that's been the biggest thing for me, because I think in terms of everybody that I've hired, I think my most, shouldn't say most senior, but I think the longest anybody's been out of school before they were hired was like 2.5 years. So everybody's been pretty green, especially in terms of outpatient. And so it's just taking the time. And man, it can be tough at times. Like I consider myself like a self-starter. If I don't understand something, like I feel like I can identify that and find ways to remediate that and take that on myself. Different people have, different levels of that, right? Like some people need to be coached up a little bit more. Some people just need to be put in a position to succeed. I mean, we talk about that with patients all the time. How do we put our patients in a position to succeed?
You're right.
Go ahead.
Well, you alluded to that change in my career, and when that happened, the same thing that you see with your clinicians, you see with leaders too, right? Like you just said, some need varying levels of coaching and mentorship to help guide those decisions, and some are like, you give them a little germ, a little seed of a thought, and they just take and run with it and make stuff happen. I think that's human nature. Not everybody's cut from the same cloth, and not everybody's made to lead at the same speed.
That's good, right? I mean, like I just have to, I got to tell myself that too, because like from a just like a pure information standpoint, you get that, right? Like people gravitate towards different personalities. People.
That's why we swear for some patients and we don't
right?
for others.
Cuss them out. You effing move like poo.
Damn it, Betty, schedule that patient. We talked about this.
Oh, darn it.
And gosh, dog.
But no, you get that, right? And I mean, I guess like, I saw that firsthand, and I know we talked about that too, Nick, like early in my career, where like sometimes you look at it and you're like, man, like, well, what if we got everyone on the same page? And then you're like, does everyone need to be on the same page? Should we have everyone on the same page? And not in terms of like goals, right? Like clinic wise, of course we should.
I must have been drinking a few beers when I said that.
It takes it all back.
No, but in terms of like treatment strategy, right? Like there's always going to be some people that gravitate towards different methodology, right? And the things that you do that endear you to patients and make them your patient for life, right? Like for some people, it's going to be like, oh man, all they cared about was freaking deadlifting. I don't even care about that, right? Like, and so it's just like, it's an important, I guess, introspection.
Strong back.
Yeah. But it's
It's a
like,
Florida,
I
it's
don't
a
know.
Florida waist lift, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's easier to get reimbursed when you document it that way.
Yeah.
You want to pick up your laundry off the floor? You want to pick your child up? Then
But it's like anything, it's like, again, it goes, whether you're a clinician, you're talking about rehab approaches, or you're talking about ways to lead your business. There should be a best practice out there, right? And there should be an ability. And, we talked about, Casey was mentioning something about when you first get those financial statements and you realize that, you were only seeing part of the picture earlier when you see it stats, right?
Yep.
And it's good. Like I was speaking earlier about how I was really blessed with my time as a co-owner and marshal and had some phenomenal years, but I was even more blessed by a really crappy year that we had, or really it was more just like 3/4 of the year that were kind of more rough and down. And where you learn a lot about how to lead and I guess what decisions to make, we'd always follow those productivity and efficiency guidelines, and we were exceedingly high in those regards. And we went a whole quarter where we were at like an 82.5 productivity. But here's what really bothered me. Our efficiency was 73%. And by every common indicator, we should have been making money. We should have been doing very, very well. And we lost money that quarter. We were in the red, and I was very frustrated. And a lot of the guidance that I received at that moment in time was very bare bones and a lot of beating the same drum. And I had to kind of stretch and learn stuff outside of myself and outside of our organization, and learn ways that, okay, what else matters? What else factors into this? Because we obviously don't have the thing on lockdown by any means. And we got to figure this out, and you never learn those things unless you see it and you live it. And, you have that type of motivation, right or wrong. But we're all motivated by that because we want to be able to take care of somebody, we want to take care of our family, not be a failure. So I think those are valuable things that we learn and process. And unless you get all the information, you're only going to be able to do your job half-assed. I really believe that.
Yeah. Yep. Preach.
Yeah. Ooh, cheers. I like it.
Well, and it's like, right? Like a constantly changing environment too, right?
Yeah. And that was true like 5 years ago, but it might not be true now.
Well, right? Like in the last 5 years, like I don't know that any insurance companies have been like, we're going to pay you more, right?
Well, they go up a little bit, but it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not like super helpful.
It's not necessarily matching cost of living and inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Nobody's ever said, hey, your results are awesome, here's more money.
Yeah,
they got to, though. It would be great if they could do that, and talk about like, here are my outcomes, which is another example of that. If you're a therapist, you think of all that time where you're not analyzing outcomes, or you choose to avoid looking at it, and you can rationalize with yourself to death. Hey, I'm great, I'm a phenomenal therapist, everybody loves me, they tell me, they keep coming back.
Right.
And you're like, well, did they keep coming back just because you have a nice personality? And are you truly getting them better, or are you just kind of spinning wheels?
Yeah, that's why I've chosen to have just an absolute garbage personality. That way I know.
I've noticed that about you.
My personality.
That way I know it's 100% my therapy. That's been my treatment philosophy lately. So
I think you need to do a study on that. That's
double blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is my patients don't come back. So
yeah,
I say my attitude's garbage. So
no, this is all really healthy stuff, and it's such a different slant on what we've been talking about the last few episodes when it comes to back pain. Final topic question for you, Jeremy, when you look at starting a new practice, and I know I wrote down like suggestions for a PT, but what are a couple things you do? What are a couple things you do the exact same, and what are some things you do differently?
Ooh. Gosh, actually this fits really well. I'm gonna go different first. So I told you guys Kirk Cousins grew up right down the road. He grew up in a
Holland,
in a town
Michigan.
called Holland, right?
pretty much the Green Bay area, if I remember correctly.
So my last name is VanKlompenburg. In my life, I knew of one great uncle in Iowa, and my uncle in Montevideo, Minnesota, that had the same last name as VanKlompenburg. And here in West Michigan, there is such a big contingency of Dutch people that I've been probably asked at least 2 or 3 times a month, "Oh, are you related to the VanKlompenburgs down in da 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 da?" And I'm like, well, not that I know of, but probably. It's not like a name like Smith or Hansen, if you will.
Genealogy would point me to yes.
Yeah.
But so with that, I've heard and found that being cheap is a curse of being a Dutch person, and so that's probably something that I haven't done enough is invested in our practice and some of the ancillary things in terms of equipment wise, and maybe the environment in the clinic.
So it's not aesthetically pleasing, you're saying?
No, it is. But I mean, we start with a weekend update, and you know what I did this weekend? I didn't tell you guys. I painted one of the bathrooms in our clinic because it's like 4 years in, and I was like, well, I got like half the clinic painted. I should paint this bathroom. I mean,
did you go brown so you don't have to clean it anymore?
It's not brown. It was actually called Gracious Greige. And so
like a mixture of beige
and it was agreeable gray. Agreeable gray. So it should take a lot of tension out of that room.
So you learn, so your big takeaway is not to be a cheap ass.
Yeah, paint your bathrooms more than once every 5 years.
Like we said, Casey the other day, right? Like, takes money to make money, right? And obviously that can get out of hand too. Okay. But obviously understanding that the aesthetics of the environment matter. So I'd probably change that, and am continuing to work on that of just not being too bare bones.
No, I think that's a good point. When I went from managing to partner, that was a big thing. When I was a manager, I was like, spend the money. When I became a partner, I was like, oh my God, don't spend the money. Right? Like you see
Let's
those
have a
numbers.
Discernment.
Know you're gonna have to see it. It's gonna be right in your face, right? Like it's totally different from just purchasing it, and it's purchased and it's out of your mind. Like, at the end of the month, it's going to come back around and you got to see it. And
it's only $600, right?
Right.
Why don't they buy this?
You really have to think over everything, because you're going to have to see it again, and you're going to have to, you're going to have to justify it to yourself at the end of the month or the beginning of the month. But whenever you look at financials, and it's like
middle of the month tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. Middle of the month, whatever you guys do.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. I think for me too, as a partner, that's been hard to, determine when you can spend money and what's good money to spend. And
you guys use that expression, spend money to make money. And I think that there's a lot of things that I agree with it, but you got to finish it with like, as long as there's a clear vision as to how you're going to get an ROI on that.
And some ROI. Yep.
If it's constantly like, oh, we just got to throw some money at this problem, that'll fix it. Well, it's like, okay, how? I'm not totally opposed to it, but how? I'm all ears for it. If you can break it down, if you can lead me from point A to like point D, and get it to make sense, I'm great. But if it's just really nebulous, free floating, and it's like, sounds really nice and whatever, well, I need a little more sales pitch to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
I agree. You can get out of hand either way, right? Or you could be like, well, yeah, but if just because I paint the clinics doesn't mean there's going to be more, units per visit or more reimbursement.
Probably not.
There's something to be said about having a clean looking
environment. What you're talking, I don't even view it that way, Jerry. What you're talking about is just a responsibility on maintenance, right?
Yeah, correct.
Like kind of like carpet cleaning, like how often you need to do that.
Yep.
So what would you do you just beat yourself up for being a tight ass. What would you do? What are some things you did right and look back on it? Hey, that made the difference.
I guess I shouted out earlier, Canby, Minnesota, and I guess I'll do it again, man. I grew up in a small town, and one of the things you find out about living in a small town is that right, wrong, or otherwise, like most people know your business before you know it yourself. And again, that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing, right? And so I hammered that a lot with our staff, just in terms of like relationships matter, right? Our treatment matters, our, how we carry ourselves matters, right? But the experience matters too. And in terms of, like, we talk a lot about marketing, right? Like, what's marketing spend? Where's appropriate marketing spend? And I've found overwhelmingly, and like probably a little bit different for you, Casey, but maybe not so, even, being in a bigger town. But I'm like, our best marketing is our return patients, right? And it's like, the best marketing that you can do is freaking take care of the person that's sitting right in front of you, and make sure that you're not like freaking out about financials or trying to worry about what's happening next Thursday at something else, like being present, right? Being with that patient, making sure they know that you understand what they're going through, that you're doing everything in your power to get them better, that you care if they get better. And that's what I put down. You said suggestions for starting out, like try to be the freaking best clinician you can be, because that talks, man. And if you can do that with empathy and in a genuine nature, man, people will come back to you. And that matters, right? And obviously you still want to get them better, right?
Ideally.
Yeah, right. Well, we reference like, but what's better, right? Like, we can get into talk about placebo and like, why do I feel better, right? And gosh, I'd have to look up how long ago it was, but there's this PTJ study that came out that it was like the 4 factors that determined whether you had a good outcome or not was like friendly staff, clean environment, on-time therapist, and a basic level of competency. And and you go, all right, well, we
cleaned up your clinic.
Yeah, let's paint that bathroom.
You got one of those 4 done now.
Yeah. Well, one bathroom's painted.
You got a clean bathroom now.
We got a little more to go there, but
yeah, the other one's just splattered head to toe.
So you're going, man, some of this stuff is just like really just basic human nature stuff, right? And then if I can be better than just a basic level of competency, if I can really knock my outcomes out of the park, if I can really take care of this person, like, how much better will that be? It's actually right, wrong, or otherwise, I guess it's been like interesting lately that we've seen, kind of a handful of patients from like within, I eval'd the guy this morning. He was the 23rd patient I saw in Michigan. And he came back, and I'm like, we were talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, there was a few patients ago, but I'm like, I said, man, I appreciate you choosing us. Like, and I truly believe, like, I truly do appreciate that.
Yeah,
we have
definitely.
a choice. I appreciate that. I'm like, I said, I told him, I'm like, I told you when we discharged last time, we weren't supposed to meet like this again. We were just supposed to see you out in the community. But, like, hey, man, let's work on this. Let's get you better again. And, I don't know. I think that more than, a shiny building, a fancy piece of equipment, I think that's going to take you a lot longer and have a lot longer longevity in terms of, the stability of your practice. So,
yeah.
I think
Great
if your patient leaves your clinic feeling like they got the best care possible, and you did everything in your ability to give them the best possible outcomes, because we know not everybody's gonna get better. I mean, there's so many factors.
Correct.
Talk about social determinants of health and things. I mean, but if they walk out that door and they went, Casey gave it, maybe I didn't get where I wanted to be, but like, I don't believe there's anybody else that's going to do better, and what does that look like? Boy, I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast. We're trying to figure that thing out, but
constantly changing. And I think that's, for me, was like, when you, Jeremy, you alluded to this a moment ago, but when you can compartmentalize those management things, those ownership things, and just focus on your patient that's right in front of you, being a co-owner, being a partner, whatever level you're at, it only magnifies your appreciation for it. It truly does. And I think if your heart and mind are in synchrony, they make you a better clinician, because you want, and you can always challenge the motivation on there, but for numbers of different reasons, I'd argue you guys are more motivated to get people better than your random staff clinician, right? And it's not saying they're poor. That doesn't mean they're poor at their job at all. It's just that you understand the value of getting that person, like Casey just said, get them to leave with that higher level appreciation. Like you said, Jeremy, go out there and communicate and spread the word, right? It doesn't change the fact that you want them to get them better. You just have you just have additional reasons to get them better beyond just making yourself feel good about the care that you delivered. Yeah.
I think again, like, something I'll tell my students, something I'll tell my staff too, is like what level of care would you expect, or like, how would you treat a family member? And maybe in all cases that doesn't fit, but how would you treat a family member that you really care about?
Poison them.
You treat your kids.
How do you treat your kids, right? And
Swear at
it's
them
just like,
nonstop.
unfortunately, I feel like there are enough people doing really, 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 really mediocre physical therapy, and that are just there for a clock in, clock out, that I think there's an opportunity to stand out.
Institutionalized healthcare should be our biggest win as private practitioners. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. First guest, I'd have to say it was a great success, much like you are, my man. Great kind of meandering PT topic, but I hope you are ready and you've done your research as we segue into the top 5.
Yeah.
This week's top 5 moments or scenes in sports movies. And Casey, share a little bit about you took this at a different slant, so share a little bit about your approach on this one.
Yeah, for the listening audience, we usually send out a topic a week ahead of time, and we don't put a lot of rules behind it per se, just like we don't give our patients the rules. We want us to succeed in our own way. So when I looked at this topic, I assumed it had to be a movie based on sports. And I assumed
that much is true.
And I assumed it had to be like a sports moment where they're like playing sports, participating in sports.
For the most part.
So, I mean, there's lots of sports movies. Don't get me wrong. Most of them, their best moments are speeches and like off-field stuff and all that cool stuff. So I'm like, man, it's weird when you start looking at sports movies. Like, there's not that much like sweet sports action sometimes. Moments that stick out with you, maybe, they're all like little vignettes of games and little vignettes of moments that build up usually to the speech or to the moment. So I cut all those out. I said, I'm not doing it. I am gonna bust this sucker down to sports moments. So my list will be questionable.
Gun slinging into our top 5.
I don't know if I'll even call it gunslinging.
Well, should we let her? Well, and we usually do an honorable mention, Jeremy. So
okay, yeah, I actually have 6.
So,
like
six. Okay, you have 6 total, or you have 6 honorable mentions?
6 total. One
Okay.
one honorable mention.
Whew.
Would
I
you?
was like,
You could.
man, you
Okay,
can't
so
have your
start.
honorable mention list be bigger.
So here's what I want to be able to go
Number
ahead.
6.
No matter what, I want to be able to go
That was
ahead of Casey
good.
because the last
Can I
couple
cut
weeks
that?
he has stolen my thunder on
Let's have Casey
films
go.
and he beats me to the punch on some of these.
I'll
these great
gladly go
films.
first on this list so Jeremy can get a feel for it.
All right.
No,
Oh,
I'm saying I can't let you go. You can't
Oh,
go ahead
you
of
want
me
me to go
because you steal
last?
my thunder, bro.
Oh.
By the time we got to Fight Club last week, I felt I had nothing else to offer the conversation because Casey nailed it.
I'm a
Just
linguist, as they
Beat me
say.
to the punch. Lyrical gangster.
A cunning linguist? No, I can edit that out.
Wow.
Ooh. I just got that.
Don't
All
be
right.
stubbornly dickish about it.
Arr. So we'll let our guest of honor
I'll go
kick off with
last.
his go with your honorable mention and then your number 5.
Yeah. Number 6 comes in from D1 Mighty Ducks. Charlie Conway hits a triple deke against the Hawks for the win.
Good. Charlie Conway, Joshua Jackson, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Dang, good choice. Good choice.
Thank you. And that was actually sports action there too, even though he hit
Heartless
the penalty
Casey.
shot without a helmet on. I don't think they do that, at least in this day and age. Number 5, Michael Jordan in Space Jam. Half-court dunk to beat the Monstars.
Ooh.
Extension. Legendary. Freaking absolutely legendary.
Can you imagine the cupboards he could have cleaned
Right.
with that
Gosh.
arm?
Yeah, and he was only 6'6". Jeez, I'm 6'8". Come on.
You should have been playing for the old
I know.
Looney
I
Tunes
think I
team.
was on the Monstars, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Number 4.
No, hold on.
Oh, wait, whoa.
We're going 5s, man.
We got to build up.
Oh, you guys got to go 5s first.
Yeah.
I thought you
We
did
go-
your research. I knew you didn't listen to this
I got a
show
little
before you
excited.
came
Yeah,
on.
I listened to one full episode and I was really jazzed about it.
Well, hopefully it was last week because we sucked early on.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. You got to find footing. People got to know who we are.
Yeah.
Don't be
Well, I
so
want to hear
hard on
your
yourself.
honorable mentions first.
Yeah.
Well, that's
yeah.
how we do it. That's why we do it this way, Jeremy.
We little rotate. So my honorable mention is I have 2 really quick. So I did squeeze in the Any Given Sunday speech by Al Pacino, right? And it probably should have been in my top 5, but I feel like I've been beating that drum for like the last few weeks. So, but that is my honorable mention, as well as the end of Teen Wolf, the final basketball game, where Michael J. Fox decides, hey, I can do this without going wolf, right? And it's a great message, great uplifting moment.
Is that a sports movie?
But yeah, he's playing basketball, dude.
He's a damn werewolf, guys.
Yeah, but not in the last scene, Casey.
The bat is back.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, okay.
So that's just honorable mentions. They don't.
I guarantee Vision Quest is on this top 5.
We are
No
making
spoilers,
rules
Jeremy.
from now on.
I guarantee Vision Quest is on.
All right.
I'm gonna go back and redo this and put Rad on my list. Prom scene.
Go ahead if you feel it.
That's spot 1 through 5.
Number 5, Bloodsport, 1988. The final fight between Frank Dukes and
JVD.
JVD. I mean, you guys have seen it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to see that movie. And it's so memed out now too, some of the scenes after he's blinded. But I mean, you got Chong, the heavy favorite, he's losing, but he's already throwing the salt tablet in his eyes. I mean, dirty cheater. But Frank overcomes it. He has a little flashback right in the middle where he's remembering at the koi pond being blindfolded and catching fish. I mean, just awesome scene. Love that movie. Love it to death. Probably corny as hell, but awesome. Bloodsport, number 5.
My list is in trouble. All right. Yeah, okay.
What are we gonna hear?
Yeah. My honorable mention, I have two because I feel like they fall into the same category. As I'm researching this, I thought about things like, oh, what scenes stick out? Two popped into my mind right away. And then I went and watched them again. And I'm like, those are in no way good scenes. So first one would be Mighty Ducks, the Flying V. As a kid, I was like, you reinvented the game. You've reinvented the game.
Quack. Quack.
Now as an adult, I'm like, just destroy those kids. That's stupid. Okay. Second one would be Little Giants, the annexation of Puerto Rico. Again, mind blown. You've reinvented the game. I don't even know why they're running other plays in football at this point because you found the perfect play. Rewatching it, it's not great.
It's a lot.
So,
happens a lot.
Yeah, those are my honorable mentions. My number 5 would be from 1999, Varsity Blues. There's lots of good moments in this movie, but if I'm going to pick a point that's sports related and emotional, I gotta go with Billy Bob getting back in there at the end. Foo Fighters, There Goes My Hero.
Yeah.
I am pumped up right now thinking about it. Dude pulls the guy out, busts through, 2 defenders, 1 more defender, blocks that kick. Man, pump you up. That's where I'm at. That's my number 5. Mostly for the music.
Varsity Blues. Oh, awesome scene. You dropped Varsity Blues a couple weeks ago, and I want to go watch it again so bad.
It holds up. Yeah, I felt like the strip club scene didn't qualify.
Didn't make your top 5.
Well, based on my own, but based on your guys' list, it's number 1. So I need to go back.
Not true. Mine. What have we said so far that's not sports related? Yeah.
Just
All
because
right.
blood sport has sport in the name. I don't know if that's a question.
Oh my God. You're gonna what, bro? What, bro? You think fighting's not real?
What do you want to fight? You want to fight? All right, let's move on.
Jeremy, number 4.
That was a precursor to UFC, was Bloodsport.
Yeah, totally. Kumite, baby. Kumite.
But I got a sidebar here real quick. If I'm going Little Giants, I'm going Spike taking the fridge out of the moving van. That's my favorite.
It's not a sports scene, you guys. Come on.
It's my favorite scene in a sports movie. But number 4.
Okay, sorry. So maybe there's some confusion here, but I assumed it meant it would be sports related. There's a moving scene or something like that in the film.
He was carrying a fridge. At like
oh God.
12 years
What's your number 4?
Number 4.
This is great. I'm gonna clip all these for the future.
Good.
4.
Yeah. Voice of God. Hoosiers. Gene Hackman takes, I don't even remember his name, but he takes out one of the main players because he's shooting too much.
Uh-huh.
And then a guy fouls out and the kid's gonna go back in the game. And he goes, "No, my team's on the floor." So he stuck by his laurels from a coaching standpoint. The kid was not buying into the system. Even though they didn't have enough players to end the game, he wouldn't put the kid back in the game. Mad respect for Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Good coach.
Your
Also
guys'
came back
lists are
and-
so good with all these powerful emotional moments.
Yeah.
It wasn't that emotional. I would say it's just like a good I would say it's good learning moment as a young athlete to just be like, hey man, like what my coach says matters.
You know, I had a moment in Hoosiers further down my honorable mentions list. And that was when Hackman takes tape measure out and measures the height of the hoop, right?
Ooh, I like
and
that.
such a solid moment. Like, hey, it's the same here too. Just take the big moments out, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Hoosiers classic. All right, my number 4.
Sports stuff, but go on, guys.
4.
Whatever. It's all sport. What are we talking? God dang it.
Moment in sports.
That was in the middle of a basketball game.
You're being now. Casey's just being stubbornly
so is some kid getting popcorn. Nobody's talking about that guy.
Oh my
Move
gosh.
on, you
All
guys.
right.
That happened in Green Bay.
This wasn't top 5 best coaching moments.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Number 4. Four. We have the film Miracle from 2004. And it is not the big win at the end by the USA, but rather
Spoiler alert.
when Coach Herb Brooks got to get them together on the line and makes them skate till they almost puke. And then he goes through and he's like, who do you play for? And guys are like, I play Boston U. Who do you play for? Minnesota. And he's like, who do you play for? And finally, I think it's Mike Eruzione. He's like, I play for the United States of America. And I'm like, damn, that's nice. Great scene. Still holds up. That's my number 4.
Solid.
What'd you
All
say?
right.
You say, do you disagree?
It does.
It does. Great
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
You got a, hey, how about you, Verkota? You got a hot date in about an hour, but you don't look too good for that, huh?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
All right, my number 4 from 1996. We're talking real sports now.
Let's go.
We are talking show notes. Ernie McCracken versus Roy Munson.
Oh,
Bowling finals for $1 million.
fun.
The rubber man Roy Munson
Epic.
versus Ernie McCracken with the rose bowling ball. A lot of history between these two. A lot of pageantry. Ernie McCracken's hair up. Those two actors just ham that scene up. I love it. The bowling's exciting. Munson hits the 7-10 split. He'll never do it. He'll never do it. Everybody knows it's a sports movie. He's gonna do it. He does it. Roy Munson's gonna win it. Ernie McCracken needs 3 strikes in a row to win $1 million. And a surprise moment.
Oh,
Tick,
yeah.
tick, tick, boom, boom, boom. Ernie McCracken beats Roy Munson. He's Munsoned again. It's a surprise. Ernie McCracken is above the law. He's kissing every woman in the audience.
Finally rich enough to buy anything I want or whatever.
He takes Roy Munson's hand, throws it into the crowd. It's an
That was
absolute joy of about 3 minutes of a movie.
I feel
Those
like,
two guys just get
how
it.
has that not been canceled?
great. Right. That's but
I can't put it on my list. I had no idea.
it's like, you know what, you're right though. That movie, I love it to death, but it's just dirty. Like it's just a grimy film. Like by the time
him and his landlord. I mean, it's unbelievable.
yeah, it's just like the Farrelly brothers were just going. They're like, we're gonna make it as dark and grimy as possible, but yet still funny as hell. And sneaky, awesome Bill Murray portrayal.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
the young Bill Murray with the curly
Yeah.
perm and the just hamming it up as they're hustling folks. That
Yeah.
movie's great, but that scene just seals that movie for me. Again, that Big Earn is above the law. Like,
Yeah,
I just love that moment.
See, you're just dicking around with me now. I come up with these ideas. You're throwing out bigger and winning.
I dare you to go watch that
It's
scene.
fun,
and
though.
not
You're
get
right.
a little pumped for bowling.
It is fun. You're right. It's a fun scene.
It's a great moment. I enjoy watching it. Every
Great
time.
moment. Ernie McCracken winning. All right. Jeremy, number 3.
Number 3. Nick, it was your number 4. Miracle. Again. And it's when Herb Brooks goes, oh, you think you're talented? You're not talented to win enough on talent alone. The name on the front is more important than the name on the back.
Yeah, great.
What
Nice
a good
job.
message,
Herb.
man. If you play any team sport, I know, Casey, I heard your eyes roll. Man, it's
I like
like
team sports, just not hockey
no, I
or
know, but
blood
it's
sport. I
it's
wasn't
like,
into that like Nick was.
What a great message for anybody playing team sports that you're saying, like,
Yeah.
and this was an all-star team, and you have this guy coming in saying, hey, like, man, no one person's more important than the team. So
Yeah.
and applicable to business as well.
Yeah, what a
Pretty
great speech / non-sport moment.
Hey man,
No.
they were skating lines during that,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, that's what you enjoyed about that scene.
God,
Yes.
Casey.
Ernie
you just-
McCracken threw 3 strikes in a row. after a 7-10 split was picked up.
It sounded
Pure
like your
sports.
favorite part of that was him throwing Roy's hand into the crowd. Not a
Well, I
sports
mean,
moment.
That pan
Yeah.
touched the ball.
Yeah. Well,
He was the
all
rubber
right.
man. That's what he bowled with the rubber hand.
Yeah, I know we got the Trojan sponsorship at
realistic.
the end, so he did make some money. All right.
All right.
My number 3, and I actually made this massive 90-degree pivot because I was going through my list and I never wrote this. This is
Better not be my
new.
number 2. I'm gonna be so pissed if this is my number.
I hope not, but
I hope it's Roy Munson.
number three. Tin Cup, 1996. Kevin Costner at the end, he takes however many drops, is it 6, is it 7, and he finally gets it over the water. And there's so much in that scene that's just awesome. Like Cheech Marin coming over and handing him, he's like, this is the last effing ball in your bag, hit it over the damn water, right? And then he does. And then afterwards, because I think he's playing in the PGA Championship, right?
Yep.
And he's got a chance to win it, but he takes all these drops and basically just like completely, falls out. And I love how Renee Russo comes up to him afterwards and he's like, I just blew it, man. I'm a head case, right? And I'm everything he said I was. She's like, oh, who gives a shit, right? She's like, no, 20 years from now, nobody's going to remember who won the PGA Tour or title that year, but everybody's going to remember you doing 7 drops and hitting it over the water, And I think that's just a cool moment, a very, very cool, underrated sports movie. Tin Cup, 1996, my number 3.
I like it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, it's a good movie. Kevin Costner, man, he had some hits there in the / just absolute bombs based on
What?
who you talk to.
Are you going to say, wait, now your number 3 is going to be Waterworld or some shit?
Yeah, they're swimming. They're swimming that whole time.
Jet ski races.
Yeah, like I said, we need rules to this thing. That dude's
He has
literally
gills.
swimming. He's so good at swimming. He has gills. How can you go wrong? Oh, my number 3, not Waterworld, but you maybe see a theme based on my movies of when I was super impressionable, late 80s, early 90s. So This movie from 1989, Major League, Give Me Vaughn.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, man. Dude's got zero luck against him. He was, for me as a kid, he was the bad boy. He was my favorite guy in that movie. That movie actually made me. The crowd's going wild. They love him. They got the posters. Like that movie made me a Cleveland Indians fan. Like, and that scene probably was the biggest contributor to that. Still to this day, that's the baseball team I follow. Really? So I mean that scene just hits it. He's got the
Are they changing their
glasses
name? Sidebar question: are they changing their mascot name? Did I hear that right?
I heard that. I'm not 100% sure on
Cleveland baseball team.
They're going to be the Cleveland baseball team for 2 years, and then
Warriors,
and then they'll
some
Commanders.
But you're okay. Go awesome scene. Shows up
just
glasses.
A great scene. I mean, he ends up striking him out. That's the part of the scene I give or take. I don't care for that scene, but just the pump up, and that's just sports, man. These personalities are bigger than life. It's
kind of fun. It's a fun scene.
And it's just, as a kid, it was awesome because it's like, man, that's what it's like to be a professional athlete, to have 50,000 people singing your song, cheering for you, waiting for that one moment, even though you've been failing against this team, like, you get another chance, man. You just got to throw the heater. It's awesome scene.
I had another honorable mention connected to Major League, and it's right next to that. It's right after that scene. So when he comes out, Vaughn or Dorn goes over to him, and he's been, busted cheating on his wife. So I love that scene though, because it's like they put everything else aside, and you think Dorn's gonna like chew him up. Instead, he's like, I only got one thing to say to you. He's like, strike this mother effer out, and he just hands him back the ball, and the way they look at each other and it's just awesome. And then
because he gives him a few side glances on the way, when he's at the plate, and he's like, oh, this is the worst, and and they win, and he punches him in the face, and picks him up, and let's go celebrate, right? Like, wife's so 4 anyway.
Awesome movie. Awesome movie. Jeremy, you're number 2.
Number 2. I can't
Flip
believe Angels in the Outfield didn't make it on this countdown yet.
Oh,
All
okay.
that
There's
baseball talk.
time.
Well,
There's
there you go.
time.
It's too high. It's
I'm
just
not-
too high.
It's
Yeah,
too
knock
high.
on wood.
That would have to be honorable mention. But no Air Bud either yet. I mean,
All right, get to your real number 2.
He's a
now.
golden retriever.
And
Golden receiver.
number two, Casey's gonna hate this again. Remember the Titans, left side, strong side, Gary
Ooh.
Bertier and Julius, man, like really coming together. What a story about just
Mhm.
like coming together as a team through like the most crazy of circumstances. Man, that still gives me chills thinking about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, I actually
Alright.
had their hospital scene on my short list.
Did you?
I did, and then I
But
said,
that's
"Well,
not,
that's
that's
not what this
the
list is
story.
about." So I took it off. You know,
Hey, you win this, we're gonna grow old, like we're gonna live in the
we're gonna
same
get fat
neighborhood, we're gonna grow
together.
fat together.
You know, and he rolls into the hospital. Tell me it's not true. You know, I don't know what that kid has done much in acting since then, but that scene's pretty sweet. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, you guys didn't get the memo, but that's not what this list is about. So I took it off.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, but
I made the memo.
I remade the memo.
Good choice, Jeremy. Good.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's questionable. I mean, they were on the field. They were on the field at the time playing football. I'll allow
Yeah,
it.
they were, man.
Way better
like
than
a
Nick's
great
garbage
scene.
he's been bringing so far.
Listen to that bias. All right. Well, Jeremy, it's finally here. Number 2, Vision Quest. 1985.
Oh,
It's it sets up the final match. Matthew Modine playing Loudon Swain, warms up by himself. Song Lunatic Fringe is playing. If you've ever wrestled in high school, college, it's like that song's like all-time famous. Awesome scene. Shoot's been unbeaten for 3 years. He's just a monster. And he's beating Loudon anyways. And Loudon has to hit him with a throw in the third period to win it. Awesome movie. One of the very few that has ever been devoted to wrestling.
well,
But it's actually very well made. Rewatched it about a year ago, probably a year and a half during COVID. Still really enjoy it. There's a lot more than sports going on in the movie. Very coming of age. Some good elements to it, but really, really enjoy it. Vision Quest, number 2, final match.
number 2.
I have never heard of this movie.
You have to. This
is a Minnesota thing. Was this filmed in Minnesota?
No, man.
Oh, it's a wrestling thing. It's
yeah,
amazing.
That's the only state that it matters, right? Like,
no, this is wrestling lore, man. Like it's like the Hoosiers of basketball for wrestlers. Like
yeah,
like
that's
you
a fair
watch
analogy.
this movie, you like this movie, like this is what wrestling's supposed to be about, right?
Even
like,
if you hate it, but you're a wrestler, you have to like it.
That's fair.
there's no choice. Because there's only one movie about wrestling.
What if you hate wrestling? Do I have to watch it? Where are we at with that?
There's like a scene early on in Risky Business with Tom Cruise where he's wrestling in high school. But I mean, other than that, it's few and far between.
I'm not calling Risky Business a sports movie.
No, I'm not either. I'm just saying
like, do I have to like wrestling to watch this movie? Is this something you would recommend?
No, I would
You're
recommend it.
probably not gonna like it if you're not a wrestler.
Shut up, dude. It's a pretty decent film. Ronnie Cox plays his dad. So if you're familiar with Ronnie Cox's work, that's Lieutenant Bogomil from Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah, good film. Really good film.
I'll take your word for it.
Forrest Whitaker's in it.
You're coming off of Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah. Okay. Eat it, Jeremy. Eat it.
My number 2 from 2004, Friday Night Lights, inches short of winning the championship. Dude, that is a real scene. Like, and maybe I'm biased because I played in the state championship and lost. not in a spectacular fashion like that, just
Oh.
absolutely got our butts kicked. But like, that's how every sports season ends for everybody, but like one handful of people, one team. That's how your season ends. Like, and sometimes, you know, we talk about the good in sports, and there's a ton of good in sports, and learning that adversity is awesome. But to see it on film like that, you're just, and a lot of these sports movies do end like that, but I think Friday Night Lights just makes it more emotional. You got these kids, they go to their parents watching on TV, you know, the kid's dad gives him his ring, you know, like, you gave it your best, even though they've been butting heads the whole time, and like, you're a failure if you don't win the state championship. You know, it's just, I don't know, it just felt real, I guess. And I get that's a movie based on real, and just how it played out felt true to me. The players on their hands and knees at the end of the game, like, I've been in that moment where you put everything you had into the game and you didn't win. Like, and it just sucks. And you feel it with those kids, even when they get together in the huddle at the end for the prayer. Like, it's a tiny thing, but you see some of the coaches in the background, like, grabbing each other's hands, hugging, heads down, crying. Like, even those adults, man, they put it all into it. Like, it's a cool scene. Comes off of a great non-sports moment speech from Billy Bob.
You're too
you know,
stubborn.
like, they set it up perfect, right? Like,
Stubborn.
and most dickishly stubborn. Most of us know, you know, probably going into that movie how it ends, but still, like, they set it up like it's going to be this awesome thing, and it just ends like sports ends for everybody, but a tiny bit.
Damn Dallas Carter team.
Yeah, it's a bunch of damn cheaters. We talked about that on episode. Jeremy, you wouldn't know because you don't listen. But
Get yourself caught up, son.
Yeah.
Pump up our demographics.
Good. This is still a good choice. I like your guys' choices so far, honestly. It's good variety.
You love number one.
Jeremy, it takes us to number one. There's no more Space
Number
Jams.
one.
There's no more Hoosiers. What could you possibly have?
I think this was 96. Happy Gilmore.
This is more my style.
Yeah.
The putt on the 18th green to beat Shooter McGavin. So, right,
real
like,
gunslinger.
we have a little bit of a meltdown, right? We get there, like, Happy's coming back, and of course the guy was the you suck, you jack butt guy. You know, he ran.
You're
his
allowed
VW
to say
bug.
ass if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was appropriate or not.
Nick will put the explicit
he
marker
ran
up.
his VW bug after running over Happy. He ran his VW bug into the TV tower.
Correct.
And
Yes.
So now everyone's so excited to watch Happy in his Subway shirt make the last putt on the 18th green, and they're climbing up on the tower and it falls down, right? And
what do you do?
She says, well, you know, we'll get this out of the way and we'll hit the putt tomorrow. And Shooter McGavin comes up. He says, no. I just had to hit the ball off of Frankenstein's foot.
Fat foot.
You hit the ball how it lies. We'll finish this now. And so then she goes to him. She goes, just hit it around the tower, 2-putt, and we'll go to sudden death. And he looks. He's kind of evaluating the tower, and he goes, no, I'll just beat him now. And he just had this amazing putt with the Odyssey hockey putter.
But yeah, doesn't he have a moment though? Doesn't he? He has that moment, much like Bloodsport, where it's
a very similar
steepest trial that he's about to face. He reflects back.
Oh, who he invokes. He goes, you're gonna have to help me out with this, Chubbs
Peterson.
Yeah.
The great Carl Weathers, who could have been on United. Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4.
Correct.
I mean,
Apollo.
Yeah. I just wanted to draw that parallel.
But then that putt goes in, and then Shooter goes crazy, and he steals the jacket. But Happy saves his grandmother's house, and you know, it's all good from there. So.
A lot of good feels.
Yeah.
That's your number one. All right.
Sometimes we do win inside.
You talk about like the changes that occur with time. Like, I just happened to watch Happy Gilmore last Saturday. It was on TV. I watched the whole thing front to end, and I was like, man, this is great. And then like as fate would have it, you sent out this list, and I was like, man, that's the best moment I can think of right there.
Okay. All right. So it seemed more like a choice of convenience.
Oh, man. I don't really want to work on this list. What's on TBS for the 10,000th time?
I guess I got my number one.
Oh, Bloodsport's next. Boy, let's move on. Oh, Happy
Yeah.
Gilmore. I'll pick one of those.
If you guys would just rewatch Bloodsport.
That happened before the list. It happened before the list.
All right. All right. It's your list. It's you have every freedom. We live in America, free country, freedom of speech so far. Still.
So far.
Yeah. All right. My number one. We're going to take it back to Major League 1989. And I don't believe there's truly a better moment in sports movies for me, rather than when Jake Taylor bunts to win the game. The music, the way he Casey, he fake calls the shot. Everything about it is just set up so well. And the whole movie's layered his history, his terrible knees, and how beat up he is. He's the oldest guy there. He's the one that should be coaching instead of playing. And he lays it all out once and gets Willie Mays Hayes, the fastest guy on the field, in. Hands down, my favorite moment in any sports movie. My number one.
Wow.
I obviously had to struggle between those two moments when I picked my list. I loved them both as a kid. I don't know how many times in kickball on the playground I called my shot.
And then bunted.
Yeah, and then kicked as hard as I could to first base for easy out. So yeah, that's one of those. Yeah, that's a moment that stuck with me. But I think as time has gone on, the Vaughn moment just sticks in my head a little better, just because of the excitement part of it, and they're both cheesy. It's a cheesy movie, but
it's a great movie. It's still, it's still
fun. I'll watch that movie anytime.
I know a lot of people, like, we could talk best baseball movies, and a lot of people get into Bull Durham, and I think it's more I think that's the most built on reputation anyways. But I think hands down, Major League One is like best baseball.
Field of Dreams, like
it's not really about baseball as much as it's about like faith and like, I don't know, reconnecting with your, making peace with
we're
the
talking
past,
baseball movies, league of their own for sure. Top. Anyways,
you're so woke. You're so with it,
dude. Me too.
Hashtag.
All right, my number one, from 1992. Again, there's some nostalgia with this, because I gotta say, I'm out in the middle of North Dakota. I had a cement slab where we used to have a building that a tornado exploded. I had 2 telephone poles with a card table between them and a basketball hoop put on them. And I relived many scenes from this movie.
The Rib.
No, yeah, that was like my true story.
Tupac.
No, probably shouldn't have been watching this movie in 1992. I would have been 8 years old. It was White Men Can't Jump.
Oh,
the King and the Duck at the end. There was just so many sweet scenes in that movie that built up to it. I knew nothing really about basketball at the time, but I just
shocked that Hoops lands at the top of the chart.
That movie just gets me. Still to this day, I love every basketball scene in that movie. It just, I don't know, it's, Woody, he was a basketball player. I mean, I don't know, that scene just gets me for some reason. I love it. I'm getting chills talking about it. Yep. Then they come back and his girlfriend left him, and there's just that's a roller coaster of a movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a good movie, fun movie.
He makes so many bad mistakes. It's like watching a train wreck.
Yeah, and it's back when Wesley Snipes was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was a fun
before
movie.
Blade.
Yeah, before Blade. He some point in 90,
before tax evasion, I would say is
all those issues, and he just at one point he's like, all right, I'm just Blade. That's just who I am.
My life now. I believe in vampires, but not in taxes.
I'm not going to smile at anybody. Maybe drink a little blood here and there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million, like I said, million scenes. We're going Sizzler. I didn't even know what Sizzler was, and I would do that. I'm gonna have Sizzler in North Dakota. I don't know.
No, I don't think we did. No.
I still would. Me and my son will act out scenes from that movie, minus the
You and
cursing.
your son, you and your young son watching
Yeah.
White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Great.
put that thing at 8 feet. I'm Wesley Snipes dunking. He's not gonna be able to do it. We're gonna repeat it over and over again. It's regulation lock. I'm sorry, I've checked it out.
All right.
Then we're gonna invite 2
You-
neighborhood kids over. We're gonna play them 2-on-2 for as many dollar bills as I can find, and it's gonna feel good. That's my number
your
one.
point. You made your point.
You know what?
Very
And
good.
in that whole scene, that whole time they were playing sports.
There were
They never
a
stopped
lot of
playing
good
sports.
there's a lot of good basketball movies.
I'm looking through my list, and I'm pretty sure that somebody was competing in something at just about every one of my top 5.
All right.
So, all
I'll
right.
give Jeremy a pass.
Agree to disagree.
He's a rookie.
All right. What an awesome episode.
We went a little over.
I have to split this one into 2, or do we leave it as 1?
I'm just gonna post this one because I'm
See if any of
lazy.
the listeners have the commitment level.
Pause it halfway through and watch the rest
Yeah,
of it.
totally. I
There's
agree.
no point in breaking.
If they stop halfway through, they're gonna come back to it. Like there's no way they're gonna leave that halfway and be like, I've heard enough of these mules.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously right. They're going to get to a point. They're going to be like, what happened to Jeremy in Michigan? Like, last I heard, he was opening a practice in May
Oh my
of
God.
2018.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I heard KPIs and I don't know what they are, but I want to hear what they are.
I've come
Can't
back
wait.
from the map place. Again, I'm not great at geography. Green Bay is in Wisconsin.
Just south of Green Bay.
Casey spent some time at the Mappery.
Yeah. Oh, cartography is my new career.
Photography. Way to go.
Anyways, yeah, thanks
All right.
everybody for listening. It was a fun episode. Jeremy, I can't say enough. Thank you for
so
joining
much
us.
for taking your
Thank you.
time. And
Thank you for having me.
If you like us, subscribe to us. If you have any remarks about Jeremy or Nick's list, you can email us at ptshoptalk@gmail.com. Until next time, everybody.
Hate mail to Casey.Hansen. Gmail.
That's way too close to my actual email. Don't do that. All right, everybody. Till next time, when we talk, we'll continue our talk about low back pain.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.